Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode: Spain and UFOs and the Paranormal. Spain's Golden Age. The Manises Incident and declassified military files. If England approaches the paranormal with a cozy fireside wink and France examines UAPs through the cold lens of institutional state science, Spain approaches UFOs and the high strangeness with a fiery, passionate, and mainstream cultural fervor. Following the transition to democracy after the end of the Francoist dictatorship in the late 1970s, Spain experienced an absolute golden age of ufology and alternative mysteries. The lifting of state censorship transformed the country into one of the most vibrant, media-saturated hubs for the unexplained in Europe. Under Francisco Franco's regime, information was heavily restricted and state media maintained tight control over public discourse. When the dictatorship collapsed in the late 1970s, a massive wave of cultural liberation swept the nation, and the public imagination exploded with stories of the unknown. Newspapers, sensationalist weekly magazines such as Stendhal and specialized paranormal publications, and late-night radio broadcasts became obsessed with UFOs, telepathy, and lost civilizations. Ufology in Spain was never relegated to a dark corner of the internet. It was front-page news and prime-time entertainment. Spaniards embraced the mystery with a uniquely romantic, passionate intensity, turning veteran researchers and radio hosts into national celebrities. The crown jewel of Spanish ufology occurred on November 11, 1979, standing as one of the most terrifying and well-documented commercial airline near-misses in aviation history. A commercial airliner operating a scheduled flight from Salzburg to Tenerife via Palma de Mallorca, with 109 passengers on board, was forced to make an emergency, unscheduled landing at Manises Airport in Valencia. The captain and crew reported being aggressively shadowed and circled by a series of brilliant, fast-moving red luminous objects that ignored radio warnings and mirrored the aircraft's evasive maneuvers. The situation escalated so rapidly that a Spanish Air Force Mirage F-1 fighter jet was scrambled from the nearby Canary Air Base to intercept the anomaly. The pilot confirmed visual and radar contact with a massive structured object, reporting that it sped away at unbelievable velocities when pursued. The Manises Incident was so undeniable, witnessed by hundreds on the ground and tracked by multiple military radar stations, that it could not be swept under the rug. It triggered formal debates and official inquiries in the Spanish Parliament, permanently cementing the event in the nation's historical consciousness. Much like the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense, the Spanish military took the UAP file seriously, long before modern global transparency movements. The Spanish Air Force, Ejército del Aire, investigated scores of reports under the classification of FANI, unidentified anomalous phenomena. Pilots, radar operators, and military personnel filed detailed reports of anomalous craft shadowing military zones and airspace. Decades later, bowing to public demand and modern transparency standards, the Spanish Ministry of Defense declassified and published thousands of pages of military UFO files online. This digital archive opened a goldmine for researchers, offering a transparent look at how the Spanish military systematically investigated high-altitude anomalies during the height of the Cold War. If the 1970s laid the foundation for Spain's modern fascination with the unknown, its rugged geography and unique media ecosystem built the cathedral. Spain did not tuck its paranormal history away into academic archives or underground zines. Instead, it elevated high strangeness into mainstream cultural prominence. The second core pillar of Spain's UFO and paranormal footprint is defined by legendary geographic hotspots and a television culture that treats the unexplained with primetime reverence. Spain's dramatic landscapes, spanning jagged mountain peaks and isolated Atlantic islands, have birthed some of the most famous anomaly-watching hubs in Europe. The Montserrat Mountain, Catalonia, rising dramatically jagged against the Catalan sky. The mountain of Montserrat is widely considered the UFO capital of Spain. Long before modern ufology, Montserrat was steeped in medieval mystery, tied closely to legends of the Holy Grail, monastic secrets, and subterranean anomalies. Beginning in the late 1970s, organized groups of skywatchers began camping out on its rocky esplanades, to scan the heavens. To this day, a dedicated collective of researchers and enthusiasts gathers faithfully on the 11th of every month for nighttime sky-watching vigils. The 1976 Canary Islands sighting. On July 22, 1976, the skies above the Canary Archipelago played host to one of the most staggering mass witness events in global history. Over 1.5 million people across Tenerife, Gran Canaria, and La Palma watched in absolute awe as a colossal, glowing blue and yellow sphere expanded into a massive, silent explosion of light, followed by spiraling red objects moving with impossible speed. The event was witnessed by military personnel, civilian pilots, and everyday citizens alike, creating an indelible cultural milestone that remains a cornerstone of Spanish ufology. Unlike Anglo-Saxon or Northern European cultures where discussing the paranormal in professional circles can carry a social penalty, Spain has long embraced a proud, unashamed mystery media ecosystem. The kings of late-night radio and literature, for decades, visionary broadcasters and researchers captured the national imagination. Figures like J.J. Benitez, author of the monumental Caballo de Troya Trojan Horse series, and the late psychiatrist and broadcaster Fernando Jimenez del Oso, commanded millions of devoted followers through overnight radio programs and high-production television, specials dedicated entirely to UFOs, parapsychology, and lost history. The legacy of Cuarto Milenio, this open-minded, deeply passionate cultural appetite, survives strongly today. Hit television programs like Cuarto Milenio, hosted by Iker Jimenez, have anchored the paranormal firmly in mainstream media for decades. Rather than resorting to cheap ridicule or campy shock value, these shows treat anomalous phenomena, historical cold cases, and ufology with cinematic production value, serious investigative journalism, and widespread intellectual appeal. In Spain, UFOs and the paranormal are not hidden in the shadows. They are celebrated as a vital part of the national identity. From the monthly sky vigils on the sacred peaks of Montserrat and the massive 1976 Canary Island flap to primetime television programs, treating the unknown with absolute seriousness. Spain approaches high strangeness with a fiery, uninhibited passion, unlike anywhere else in Europe. To fully understand Spain's relationship with the unknown, one must look beyond the skies and into its rich, dramatic terrestrial history. Shaped by centuries of imperial history, the dark legacy of the Inquisition, and fierce regional folklore, Spanish soil has birthed some of the most bizarre and fiercely debated parapsychological phenomena in Europe. Spain does not tuck its ghosts and anomalies away into quiet academic footnotes. Instead, it investigates them with the same passionate investigative zeal that fuels its ufology. One of Spain's most famous modern ghost hunting and high strangeness meccas is Ochate, an abandoned village nestled in the county of Treviño in northern Spain. According to local lore and modern paranormal investigators, Ochate was mysteriously struck by 3 successive localized epidemics in the 19th century that wiped out its entire population, leaving it completely desolate. Beginning in the late 1970s and 1980s, Ochate became a prime destination for Spanish parapsychologists, who reported capturing chilling electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, unexplained thermal anomalies, and luminous UFOs hovering over the ruined bell tower. It stands as a classic example of how Spanish anomaly hunters blend ghost lore with modern ufology in a single haunted landscape. Perhaps the most thoroughly documented and fiercely contested domestic haunting in Spanish history is the phenomenon of the Bélmez Faces, which began in August 1971. In a modest home in the Andalusian village of Bélmez de la Moraleda, the homeowner, Maria Gomez Camara, claimed that human faces began spontaneously surfacing on the unpainted concrete kitchen floor. As family members scrubbed and even dug up the concrete to pour a new floor, new faces, varying in expressions from sorrow to serenity, continuously reappeared, shifting positions and multiplying over time. The house became an instant national obsession, drawing thousands of curious onlookers, parapsychologists, and scientists. While skeptics suggested chemical reactions or deliberate hoaxes, intensive scientific analyses and structural investigations failed to find a definitive physical mechanism of forgery, cementing the Bélmez Faces as a legendary fixture of European parapsychology. The centuries-long shadows of the Spanish Inquisition, medieval crusades, and the brutal conflicts of the 20th century have left deep emotional and architectural scars across the country. From regional tales of forest spirits in the green hills of Galicia, such as the Migas and the Santa Campana, a nocturnal procession of wandering souls, to haunted medieval castles and monasteries converted into state-run paradors, the supernatural is treated not as a spooky novelty, but as a living continuation of Spain's dramatic historical narrative. In Spain, UFOs and the paranormal are big, loud, and culturally celebrated. Far from being hidden in dark internet forums, are dismissed with polite cynicism, Spanish ufology and parapsychology boast a proud history of military declassifications, mainstream primetime integration, and legendary physical anomalies like the Bélmez Faces and the ruins of Ochate. For millions of Spaniards, the mysterious unknown is an exciting, vibrant thread woven directly into everyday cultural life. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archive Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact, The Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute hit of real-life experiences, perfect for your daily plunge into consciousness exploration. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.